Well, I tell you what, Andy, for a TV show about Godzilla, I was expecting that one fleeting shot of a monster per episode, and that would be it. Because, budget. But in a
Yeah.
TV series that's got Kurt Russell as one of the leads, who we've not seen so far in episode one, boy, this was big. This was very big. It's set in the universe that started with Godzilla, Skull King Island, Skull Kong Island, isn't it? Skull
Kong
Kong
Skull
Island,
Island.
Skull Island, Kong. You tell me.
You
Oh,
got
just
an old
Island,
Shatner there.
Kong, Skull. And then we had Godzilla versus King Kong, Godzilla Legacy of. There's been so many. It's set in that universe, but I can't believe how epic it was.
Mm. Yeah, it hits the ground running with a nod to Kong Skull Island before it switches back and forth in time frame to the early days of Monarch, the current days, and somewhere in between. As we're getting told the history of the Monarch organization and their influence on like knowledge of giant monsters up to the present day, where the events of Godzilla's rampage through San Francisco are very significant to the lives of the key players within this film. And yeah, like you said, you expect with a TV series, we'll get like, a quick 10-second glance at a monster, and that's all that you get. And whilst this series is mainly looking at the human condition and the focus and the family aspects, the monsters are very, very much present throughout. Some of the shots look a bit similar. So they've basically just taken, because there's the attack on San Francisco, and there's a Godzilla smashing through the Golden Gate Bridge that we've seen. But now we're seeing it from another character's perspective. And whilst the image of him going through the gate is like Golden Gate Bridge is the same, there's just that small change to it towards the end of it when he seems to turn, that it's like, that's the additional bit. So that they're smartly using pre-existing footage with the new content in order to make sure that the monsters are very heavily promoted through this whole episode. And the first two episodes lasted on Apple, and it got to the end of episode one with such a proper shock moment that it makes you just go, I need the second episode right now. And I jumped straight into the second episode and got to the end of that. And now I've got to wait week on week for the next episodes. And this is going to be the most painful waiting for the next episode of something, because it is so well made. It is solid drama with a monster environment, and it has world built this Monarch realm better than anything else could. What I thought was really good, though, is like I tried to look at it from, if I'd never seen the Godzilla film or the King Kong film, etc., would I feel lost? And I don't think I would, because I think it does a really good job of introducing a new bunch of characters who are linked to the older characters, but it's telling the story it's telling the story more or less from scratch, as though you're someone who doesn't know anything about it. And it works on both levels. You can be a huge fan of those Godzilla and Kong films already, and so you'll be looking for the nods and references. But you could be a newcomer to this and still find yourself drawn into the human drama. And that's what makes all the Godzilla films so good, is they're always about the human drama in the middle of these crises.
Yeah, I think Matt Shackman, who directed it formerly of WandaVision and the upcoming Fantastic Four, kept it feeling very grounded. It was less green screen than some of the big movies have. It had a real world setting, which of course works better for television. But it was the scope of it that I was really impressed. Yes, we've got the fantastic bit of stunt casting in father and son, Kurt and Wyatt Russell, both playing Monarch military guy Lee Shaw at different ages, and both proving that they're just so charismatic on screen. But it never shied away that this is a monster show with that scope, and it fits the small screen perfectly. In fact, it made me more excited now for the Alien TV series, because if it works as well as this, then I can see how they can do it. Good fun. Looking forward to the rest of the series and seeing where it's going to go, and looking for more and more surprises. I've only seen episode one so far. I'm going to do it as a weekly drop just to get into it. So maybe we'll talk about it when we're
Once it's all fun. Once it's all run. My only disappointment with this is that it looks so epic and cinematic that the small screen doesn't do it enough justice. And
don't watch it on your phone.
I would love to watch these on a cinema screen, because
maybe you could rent a cinema and we'll show them, Andy.
It's got the production values of a film. It doesn't look cheap, and this is what Apple TV Plus do so well with their series. Is they don't make them feel like they're just made for TV. They feel just as huge and epic as what a big screen outing would be. Well worth checking out. Well worth subscribing to Apple TV Plus for. Thoroughly recommend Monarch. It's got me excited for the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel next year all over again.
So this is not a remake, nor is it a reboot. I'd say this is a remix. So it's not a remix of 2010's Edgar Wright movie, or it's not just a pure adaptation of the Brian O'Malley comic. This is anime taken on to a new level, I thought.
Yes. I've binged all of this, so I know that it's not a remake, it's not a reboot, it's not a rethinking, it's something else. But I'm not going to say, because how it plays out towards the latter episodes, it all makes sense as to where it fits. Anyone who went into this expecting a direct adaptation of the comic book or the film are in for a huge surprise, even though both O'Malley and Wright have been absolutely clear throughout the production of this that this will not be the same story that you've already seen. They've made it specific all the way through that it won't be the same story. So when the first episode plays out and it feels so very familiar, you've got the same setup, you've got the same introduction of Ramona, you've got the same build up to that first fight with Matthew Patel. And that's the point at which it finishes the first episode with a huge shock twist that makes you sit up and go, what's just happened? And the clue is in the title. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. We should have known all along what was going to be happening. And what plays out on the episodes afterwards is a really, really unique and fascinating way to re-explore the whole aspects of Ramona and Scott's relationship from a different perspective. And it gets a chance to build up some history and some background to the evil X's. We get to get
that's what I liked about it.
We get to find out who they are as a person and start to realize. Anyone who's watched the Scott Pilgrim film or read the Brian O'Malley original comic who didn't get the whole point that these people were evil because Ramona breaks hearts. She always walks away from people. She'll be best friends with someone or love someone, but then it's her who always goes off because she's a wild force of energy. Anyone who didn't get that was missing the fact that the evil X's aren't necessarily evil. And it's great to see that explored in this animation, because we actually start to care for the evil X's. And it's a fascinating way to take it.
The animation style is done in a sort of anime style and looks great for it. You've got to talk about the return of the cast from Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim movie. And unsurprisingly, the cast remains fantastic. Bring in energy and enthusiasm, and that word we like to bandy about here at the FilmFile, charm, that made the movie stand out. So it builds more layers than just the original, more than the original film did.
Yeah. There's some nice touches within the series. You've got some voice cameos from a range of names. My favourites being Simon Pegg and Nick Frost crop up in one or two episodes as security guards. And I also like the touches that pretty much every episode, I think there's only one that doesn't do it, has the same animated sequence but done with different colours of Ramona changing her hair colour. And it's a nice little repetitive theme that runs through the whole thing, that every time it starts, it's like, what's she going for this time? And then you go, okay, that's her energy this episode. And it does kind of reflect her energy on the episodes, how she's coloured her hair. I had fun. And I'm looking forward to sitting and rewatching it again because I had so much fun with it. I know that looking online, I know that a load of people are whining and crying about how they, which they're generally referring to Netflix, have destroyed the film comic for what they see as woke issues. But those people who are complaining appear to have missed a few things. First of all, Netflix, had nothing to do with the creation of this. Brian O'Malley had full creative control, and I'm pretty sure that Netflix were probably expecting a direct adaptation of the graphic novel. They weren't expecting this. This was Brian O'Malley's re-exploration of the characters that he created. The clue, like I said, is right there in the title. And finally, the other thing that these people are clearly missing is the remaining episodes after episode 1, because if you make all your judgments based on that first episode, you've missed the whole point. This is something that benefits watching the whole series, and then it casts a whole new light across the whole thing. For those who have only watched a few episodes, stick with it, get to the end, and then get back to us and let us know what you thought of the whole thing, because for me, who binged the whole lot in one go, I thought it came together well, and it was a really good re-exploration of the Scott Pilgrim themes from O'Malley and Wright.